Good Shabbos, everyone. I hope this message finds everyone healthy and well. So we have this Shabbos, the second Haftorah of the Shiva de Nechemta, of the 7 special Haftorahs of consolation. And we have the continuation of Mishnah Torah, of Moshe Rabbeinu, sending the message from Hashem to the Jewish people before he takes leave of them. This is the most important parsha that contains such a rich and important messages that really show and describe to a person what's really expected from him or her. And the beginning of the Sedra begins with a special word, begins with a special statement. V'hoya Eikev tishmun. Because, and it will be Eikev tishmun, because you will listen, es hamishpatim ho'ela u'shmartem v'asisam oisam, if you're going to keep the mitzvos of Hashem, v'shamra Hashem l'kecha l'cha es abris, then God, He'll protect you, v'es ha'ches asher nishma la'avosecha, and the kindness that He promised to your fathers. So this is the beginning pasuk. And the Torah tells us, "V'hoya Eikev tishmun," and it will be if you will listen to the mitzvahs of Hashem. And we're told by our sages, by Chazal, that v'hoya, that when the word v'hoya is used in the Torah, it is a loshen simcha. It represents supreme happiness and joy. This is a good sign. This is good tidings. V'hoya Eikev tishmun. So if you look at the pasuk, you'll see that if only you will, because you will keep the mitzvahs of Hashem and the mishpatim, and you keep them very carefully to fulfill them, Hashem will bring only goodness. He'll keep His treaty, His promise that He came to Avram Avinu and to Yitzchak. And then the pasuk continues, V'ahevcha ubeirachecha v'hirbecha. And Hashem says that the type of blessing that I will give you is that I'll love you. Ubeirachecha, and I'll bless you. V'hirbecha, and I'll multiply you. And I will bless pri vitecha or pri atmasecha, the fruits of your children. This is, it's Hashem having wonderful children, or pri atmascha, the goncha, v'siroshcha, v'yitzarecha, and all material blessings that He will take care of the crops, and He'll take care of us materially. And here we see that in the parsha, it's because v'hoya Eikev tishmun that we will be the recipients of Hashem's great bracha. And this is something that is probably the reason why v'hoya Eikev tishmun, that the word of v'hoya is used instead of the word vayehi. Like it says in the Megillah, vayehi b'mei Achashverosh. You know that was the existential threat and danger to the Jewish people. And Baruch Hashem, Hashem heard the tfilos and the great courageous actions of Mordechai and Esther, so that all of the plan of the Hamans of the world were not fulfilled, and we were protected. And this is why we have Purim. But it begins with Vayehi b'mei Achashverosh. Vayehi has to do with terrible things that are going to happen. And this is something that maybe we have to think about. You know, why is it that our sages say that these words mean so much? V'hoya always means simcha. And Vayehi always means that there's a calamity, there's something terrible about to happen. And why is that? I mean, actually, V'hoya means, and it was, and Vayehi, and it was too. I mean, so it's the same word, except they're different in the way that the Torah describes it. What is it that V'hoya is a loshen simcha, and Vayehi is lashon of a calamity, of terrible things that will occur. And I heard from a great man that the answer really has to do with the diktuk. You have a vav hachibur. This is the connecting vav. This is the conjunction of the vav to a verb, Haya, and it was. That's what Haya is, and it was. And you have in Hebrew, in the Torah, you have the Vav HaMahapech. This is something that's very common. If you want to translate any pasuk in the Torah, you have to know the rules of grammar. And V'Haya, when there's a Vav in front of an Avar, of a Haya, so the Vav HaMahapech turns it was to and it will be. V'Haya Eikev. So it turns the past into the future. When you take a past, when you take the rich history and all of where you come from, the great chain of pride that a Jew has of knowing that Hashem loves us and that we're connected to our parents and grandparents with our Torah, with our mitzvos. When a Jew remembers that he's a Jew and he takes all of his rich past, that's something to move forward. That's a Lashon Simcha, V'Haya. And the opposite is true with the word Vayehi. Yehi means it will be. It's a very positive word. It will be in the future. It's not moving back in the past, but it's in the future. But all of a sudden you take a Vav with a Patach, the Va, and Oy Vey, the Va of Yehi turns it and it was. It takes the future and turns back into the past. So that Vav, Hachibur, this is the connection that a person has to the past, to his parents, to his traditions, to Har Sinai, to the pride of being a Jew, of what it really means to be a Jew, all of that love and all of that representation of what it means to be a Jew, that if you turn your back on that, as the Jewish people did in the time of Purim, that unfortunately, as we are told, the terrible sin of that generation was Shenenu Misudasa Shaloisei Rasha Me'achashverosh, that they wanted to connect themselves to the culture, the immoral culture, to what it was that they celebrated, and the Jews, they connect themselves to that, and unfortunately they turned their back on their own culture, their own pride of being Jewish. So the Vayehi, that what will be in the future, that the clock was turned back, and it was Vayehi, the Vav, that connection that wasn't a good one, turned the clock back and led to terrible calamity of a Haman, and this is what happened. But if you look at this week's Sedra, it has nothing to do with calamity, but Haya, taking the past, and that Vav HaChibur, connecting yourself with that moves you forward into the future. That's positive, that's bright, that's optimistic. That is something that will be for eternity. V'Haya. And here the Torah is telling us something remarkable, because if we look at all of the other parts of the Torah, you will find that something remarkable is the blessing of Hashem is so much more intense than was previously mentioned. Because this is not the first time where Hashem says, if you keep my mitzvahs, I will shower upon you all material blessings. That's something that the Torah says in parshas Bechukoisai and other places. In last week's Sedra, in Parshas V'Hoya, which is Parsha of Kriya Shema, that we say every single day, twice a day, V'Hoya im Shemaya Tishmu el Mitzvoisai. So the Torah says, I'm going to give you material blessings. V'Nasadik Yishmechem Be'itam. Yorel Malkosh, I'm going to give you all of these beautiful material blessings. And he's going to help us in that way, and that's a wonderful blessing. But if you look at this week's Sedra, he uses very unusual terms. The Torah says, V'Hoya Eikev, the parsha is called Eikev. And as Unkla says, and Targum Yerushalmi says, V'Hi Eikev Cholof, it's because you will keep mitzvahs of Hashem. Then, because you keep, the word Eikev, because you keep, this is Unkelis and Targum Yerushalmi, so then all of a sudden it's no longer just material blessings. But the Torah says, Ahevcha, I'm going to love you. Ubeirakecha, I'm going to bless you. V'hirbecha, and I'm going to multiply you. Then all of a sudden, there is this, we're bumped up to an extra level. We're bumped up not just to be blessed materially, which we get if we fulfill the mitzvahs of Hashem. But Hashem says here, Ahevcha, I'm going to love you. See, that love is more like the relationship of Ashir Ashirim, of Ani L'Doidi V'Doidi Li. This is what Shlomo HaMelech taught us about the ultimate level of connection to Hashem, of dveikus with Hashem, is to have that love that the Jew has for Hashem and Hashem has for you, and that manifests itself in every waking moment of a person's life. Just like two lovesick lovers of a chassid and a kala, of a husband and a wife that love each other, that can't live without each other. This is the ultimate level of ahevcha v'irbecha. And the question is, before the Torah told us that you fulfill mitzvahs of Hashem, you'll get material blessings. But here too, the Torah tells us also, you fulfill the mitzvahs of Hashem, but the Torah uses the word v'haya, and it will be beautiful joy and simcha. Eikev, because you will keep the mitzvahs. What is this word Eikev? And if you look at Rashi, and Rashi tells us that im ha-mitzvos, that Eikev really tells us the message that these are not just regular mitzvahs. Of course, we have to keep all the mitzvahs. Im ha-mitzvahs hakalos, that you fulfill even the mitzvos that seem very simplistic, very easy, that other people overlook. Shodom dosh ba'akevov. But if you don't overlook those mitzvos, tishmun, and you really are careful and meticulous, and you are someone who doesn't just overlook those mitzvahs that seem to be not so important, that seem to be not so important, but you take care of the small little things, then all of a sudden, you're in a different league. It's not just the mitzvahs that, is the big show, but it's the small things in life. Someone once said that if you want to accomplish great things, then you should accomplish small things greatly in a great way. It's to get the small things right in your life. And when you get the small things right, then your whole life is changed. It's filled with a richness. If you inject, there's not necessarily a mitzvah you could find to be besimcha. In Yontif, it's a mitzvah besimcha. Or a chasen kala, he should be mesameach. He should rejoice with his wife. But the idea of it is that as the Teichacha says, when you do mitzvahs, but not just to do it because you have to do it, which is, of course, is important. You have to do mitzvahs. But to do it with an understanding and to do it with a simcha, that little bit of doing it with a joy, to doing it with that love for Hashem, to be able to go and give, if you don't have material gifts to give people who are in need, or even people who are not in need, but to be able to give that smile to other people, to be thoughtful to the people near and dear to you. Sometimes we have even our own spouses or our children or grandchildren, and sometimes you take them for granted, all the blessings, but to be able to express a thanks, to be able to give a smile, to be able to do little things to show the person that you love your child, your parent that you're taking care of, or your spouse, husband to a wife, wife to a husband, to be able to get that little gift or the thoughtful note or just to be thoughtful, to be just there to help and to be supportive. Sometimes not to say anything, just to be an ear that people can be able to talk to and get all of the burdens they have off of them, just to be a good friend. Those small things make such a difference. And we live in a world that, with the multimedia, the attention of people is so much limited, and that the stimulation that's needed, even young people, was once in a restaurant before COVID, of course, the good old days, and I saw two people, and they were young people. They were in the restaurant, and they were looking at their smartphones, and they were texting each other instead of looking at each other, having a conversation, a rich conversation, connecting with a friend. They only knew how to connect with the text and with the emails and with all of the other stuff that they were doing. And what they were missing, that connection, to call a child, to call a parent, and maybe when COVID is over, to get that extra visit, even in a nursing home with patients that might not even remember that you came to visit them, but the healthcare workers that are there, they see that this person is remembered. That small thing, the smile in a shul, the call on a phone, the notes, all of those small things that you think are not really the important things. You got to get all the other stuff done, and it's true, you got to get everything done. But to be able to do the small things better every day, you're davening every day, but just to think about maybe a specific bracha, to think about the blessing that you've received in your life. That's the things that really count, that give a richness to a life. And that is something that just contemplation, to being attentive in that way, to being more human, then that's the haya, that's taking your past and propelling yourself with that connection you have to others that are around you. Most of all, the connection that you'll have to yourself to propel yourself forward into a better place of joy. And this is why V'haya, Eikev, really is a defining way of living your life, that Ahevcha ubeirachecha, that God will bump up, if you're going to bump up your avodas Hashem by thinking about the small things, having a little bit more kavanah, of having a kavanah when you say a bracha, or when you think about how I could help others. In what way? Do you call the shul president or the gaboyim up and say, how can I help? Do you call the yeshiva up to say, how can I help? Do you call a neighbor, a senior citizen who might be away from him or her family, and to see, is there anything I could pick up for you or take care of you, or even your spouse? All of those small little things make such a difference to people's life. And you bump up your avodah in that way. So Hashem says, then I want to make my relationship greater and richer with you. And this is really what we have to grab onto, because the word Eikev comes from Lashon of a heel. And Yaakov Avinu, our father Yaakov. So this is the Kedusha that all of us have, is that Kedusha from Yaakov Avinu. As we say in benching, Kedoshenu Kedosh Yaakov. That our Kedusha is the Kedusha of Yaakov. And what is Yaakov? Why was he called Yaakov? Because Yitzchak and Rivka saw that from the moment he was born, he v'yadoi oichezes ba'akev Esav. The Esav who's willing to trample on other members of humanity. The Esav of this world, the perversion that he lives with, of he's number one. It's only what he can do that might makes right. And that individuals and the person, you know, like the expression that he has is you gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet. What a horrible thing to have to crack other people in order to make your own omelet. And that's not the Jewish way. But a Yaakov Avinu, v'yadoi oichezes be'akev Esav. No, I'm not going to allow for all of the sensitivities and kindnesses and compassion and humanity for you to trample on that, but rather I tenaciously grab on to the Akev, to the things that you trample on. And that's what made Yaakov Yisrael, that great prince of Hashem. And that's what made him the supreme Yaakov Avinu of Klal Yisrael, of Kiddushenu Kiddush Yaakov, to be tenacious about being considerate and caring to others, and as we mentioned, to be truly great and to accomplish great things is to accomplish the small things greatly in a great way. And that everyone can do. And that's our job. And this is what our Haftarah tells us. The Haftarah that ends of that, that's the second Haftarah of the Shiva de Nechemta. Ki nicham Hashem tzia nicham kol charvoiseha. That this really will be the ultimate consolation to Tzion, to all of the destruction, v'yosem midbara ke'eden. To be able to take that negativity, the midbar, that place that you think that nothing really could improve, v'arvos kegan Hashem, but to transform that by taking care of the small things, by living a little richer, with more kavanah, with more love and more intent, then you transform that midbar of that negative into something that is not just a positive, but it's something that flowers and brings sosin v'simcha yemotzabai, toida v'kol zimra, that will bring only joy and celebration, toida v'kol zimra. And someone once said that really that last phrase of the Navi really says it all. You want sosin and simcha. If you want sosin and simcha in your life, it's all up to you. Yemotzei ba toida v'kol zimra. You just have to take care of the little things and know that every little bit of the gift of God is a toida v'kol zimra. If it's yemotzei ba toida, then you'll find the sosin and simcha. And then you'll find the kol zimra. Life changes. And the benefit is really to yourself. You're the beneficiary. And that is our hope, that Hashem Yisbarach bring us to that ultimate nechama of Tzion, and may in our own worlds find sosin and simcha, and that will come when Yemotzei by Toida, that when we can live our life by discovering all of the blessings, the small blessings that Hashem gives us, then V'kol Zimra, that is the beautiful song that we will sing in our own life for V'haya, that Lashon Simcha, as we propel all of the rich past and all of the blessings that Hashem gives us, and that Emir Hashem, that'll propel us to a beautiful, bright future, Ahevcha v'herbecha, and we will be the recipients of God's abundant love and God's all of His great blessings, bring us Yeshua, Nechama, and Emir Hashem, great refuah to a world that is in such desperate need of refuah for us and for all of mankind. Good Shabbos, everyone, and have a wonderful Shabbos.